like college, basic like graduation is very important for you guys. Without graduation, you can't appear in UPSC. So you can't take your college exams also lightly. Second thing is, if you are planning to take your graduation subject as your optional, so you should give more attention to that and try to compare with the UPSC syllabus, whatever syllabus you have in college examination. That will help you. So apart from this, the challenges, maybe another some personal challenges with respect to your relationships with your friends or maybe another relationships. So that you have to be careful. You have to keep it very balanced, that how much time and effort you are giving to it and what is your priority. You need to decide your priority order and you will overcome the challenges that you have at your age group, because the issues that we face as a student and the issues that we face as a professional both are different. So that is first thing. Then coming to second question, you took risk of attempting only 80 questions in prelims. What was approach to prelims? Should practice of mains and this is the first part. Okay, see, there are many people who attempt 95 plus questions also, and there are few who attempt only limited questions. So first you check what is your safe zone, and how will you get to know what is your safe zone? See, when we attempt UPSC paper, there won't be more than 50-55 questions that you know. You can be sure of nearly 50 to 55 questions, even you have read thoroughly everything. After 50 questions, you will feel like, okay, I'm getting confused between three options, or I'm getting confused between two options. And there will be around 10 to 15 questions that you don't have any clue. You'll be clueless about it. So many times we need to rely on our guesswork. But how much your guesswork is, that is really important for you guys to know. So for that, you need to attempt mock papers. And when you are attempting mock, initially do one thing, whichever you are guessing, mark G over it. That this is a guesswork. G2, like you are guessing out of 2, or G3, guessing out of 3. And which is totally. So when you are done with your mock, when you analyze it, you will get to know that, okay, when I'm guessing how much it is going right and how much it is bringing penalty to you. This will vary across it, like across the papers. If you attempt 10 to 15 papers, you will get to know the pattern, that okay, which is the safer limit, and you can compare your scores, that if I'm going for more guessing, then this thing is happening. In that way, you can decide whether to go for the guesswork or not. This is first thing. Second thing is paper, the toughness of paper. Because if you see 2016 paper, it was very tough. And in that one, if you think of attempting less questions, you will be penalized for that. So when you see the paper, if it is easy, it is easy for all. If it is tough, it is tough for all. So keep these two things in mind and you will know that how many questions you need to attempt. Then after this, next question was, should practice of mains and prelims go parallel from same material, or prelims needs an extra attention? There is too much disturbance.
See, prelims Mike is open. Whoever whoever's mic is open, please mute yourself.
Please. Hello, is it audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So, regarding this, the practice for prelims and mains. See, prelims, if we see, both are different ball games together. Prelims, it's more of like you need to maintain a balance between dynamic and static. But if you see the mains part, uh, except few topics, for example, the core geography, core history, rest of the questions, they are very generalist. For example, if you see the questions from polity, governance, they will be more or less related with the current affairs. But when you are going through the same topics in the prelims part, that is more of factual thing. So if you see about the practice for mains and prelims you should know the factual part more, while it's in the mains it is more of application part. So the syllabus of more or less it will remain the same for both, but your approach will vary between the prelims and mains. So material, when we see it is like subject wise. For example, if we start with the polity, for both mains and prelims, source will be our Lakshmikant plus current affairs. But what will vary is when you are preparing for the prelims, you need to focus more on the articles and the factual things. Okay, this is there. But when we come to the mains question, the type, the way they are asking question will change. The content will remain same. So when you are like the sources will be more or less same, but the way you are approaching and the way you are practicing will vary. Okay, so material will vary a little. Like when you are studying for the prelims part, it will be more towards your static for some of the subjects. For example, if you are focusing on polity, you can entirely depend on Lakshmikant. But when you are preparing same for mains, you need to prepare it with respect to polity as well as governance. So you have to focus on the current part also. When we come to geography, like it's more of factual thing in prelims, but it's more of application part in mains. So when you are reading any material, just think, make short notes that I will recommend. That for prelims, these are the factual things that can be asked, and for mains, you should know that how these things are working, the practical applications. So material will remain more or less same. The approach will vary, how you are approaching it. And prelims is becoming very unpredictable. You have seen the papers. So yes, it needs an extra attention, because if you are not able to qualify prelims, you will never know what will happen in mains, how hard you may prepare for mains. But if you are not able to qualify, that will be a big challenge for you guys. So yes, it needs extra attention. And prelims best strategy will be try to balance both static and dynamic parts. For dynamic, focus on the current affairs, and for current affairs also read daily newspapers and supplement it with online sources. So what I used to do was I will read newspaper, and in the evening when Insights daily current affairs compilation will come, I will revise through that. So at the month end, I will be thorough with the both. And none of the newspaper, like none of the articles will be left out. This will boost up your confidence. This was the second question. Then third question was you switched from optional from public administration to history. How you covered the syllabus? See, I am from mechanical engineering background, so I approached history also in a technical way. I divided it into eras. Okay, like if you sit with the syllabus, you can totally differentiate that. Okay, sources are there. Then you need to read about the sources, archaeological sources, literary sources, and then when you come to another parts, for example, the Ashokan era, these are like era wise it is defined. So whatever the chapter number is given or era is given, just see what are the major components that are mentioned in the syllabus. Don't try to venture out of the syllabus in history. Otherwise, you'll get bogged down. That is the first advice. Second thing is keep UPSC notification as your only master to guide you. It is the only guiding light. Don't run after multiple coaching institutes, multiple books. You can refer to multiple books, but keep your syllabus as the only guiding light. What happens is we run after finishing books that, okay, for example, history optional is there. I will finish Upinder Singh also. Then I will read uh, old NCRTs, I will read new NCRTs, and I will read Spectrum also. Then I will read Bipin Chandra, I will read Shekhar Bandyopadhyay. This strategy will backfire because you will have so many things you won't be able to recollect in the end. So best strategy, whenever you are approaching any optional, whether it be history, PubAd or anything, keep your syllabus with you, mark the books that this topic I'm going to read from this book only. If you feel that something is lacking, then check previous year question papers of that topic and you will realize, okay, some areas are lacking, that you can supplement from another book. Otherwise, for one topic, try to stick to one book, at max two books. Don't go beyond that, beyond two books or two sources. Don't run after books, multiple books. Just figure out, okay, this is the topic, this I'm going to read from this book, this is primary book, and if anything is left out, I will supplement it from this book or this source or these notes. That is the best thing. Otherwise you will be bogged down with syllabus, because if you run after books, same content will be there, only the way they are producing the content that will vary. But you will feel that, okay, this thing is missing, this thing is missing. So take a broader topic, that this, for example, you are reading about Guptas or Mauryas or Delhi Sultanate, then see, okay, what kind of questions are being asked. It is more or less, it is about the economy, the famous personalities, what changes they have done, then the political. They don't in UPSC don't expect you to memorize, okay, which came to throne after this, which king came to throne after this. You don't have to remember the lineage, except for few. For example, the Mughal dynasty, rest you can skip. But what they are expecting you is the analytical part. Because if you see the questions, they will give you a statement, or they will ask you, okay, how they will ask you to compare two eras, that how the things varied from later Vedic period to early Vedic period. So in that case, the analytical part will come into picture. And if you know the content, you can analyze and you can reproduce yourself. So that's why keep the topic and select the books. Okay, this is the book, and from this I'm going to read this much topic. Don't run after finishing the books. Try to finish the UPSC syllabus, not the book count, that I have read this book, I have read that book. That will not help. Then how to make answers unique. See, when you start writing answers, try to break up the question into parts, that what are the parts to be answered. Because the marks, the evaluation will be according to the parts, that whether you have answered according to the demand of the question or not. So first thing is, try to answer all the subparts of the question. For that you need to practice how to break the question into subparts. First is that. Second thing is, try to supplement, like whatever you are saying, whatever argument you are giving, how you can make it strong. That will help you a lot. For example, in if you are reading about RTI, that how it has changed lives. If you keep on giving all theoretical examples, it is more or less, it will be same with case with others. But if you include how it has actually worked on the ground, how it brought out major scams. For example, even RTI had major role to play in the Vyapam scam. It had role to play in another scams also. Then it is used to bring the transparency and accountability, because now people even have right to write to PMO and ask about the expenditure, that how much money is being spent on the travels of the PM. So in that way, you can make a list of your examples. If you don't have that much time, uh, there is one Telegram channel for ethics, and last year one of the toppers, she shared her examples PDF. It is somewhere around 17 to 18 pages PDF. I'll share it with you, one of you, and you circulate it among yourself. It has like all the examples that can be quoted in GS papers or ethics papers. That will help you a lot. So try to, whatever you are mentioning, try to supplement it in one or two lines with the examples to strengthen it. So till now, any question? Anyone have any doubt, any question?
If anyone has any doubt till now, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Ma'am, what was your strategy for CSAT paper 2?
Okay.
Previous
That is a
paper 2.
CSET paper 2, that I will recommend better you like you will be knowing like what are your weak areas. For example, you face issues with the mathematics part or with the comprehension part, that you will be knowing. So I will recommend if you have major issues with the mathematical part, then you can refer to RS Agarwal. That is one of the best books. And for reasoning and comprehension also, RS Agarwal book is there. So those two are basics. If you solve like 15, 20 questions from each subpart, you'll be able to go through, like easily excel through the CSET paper 2.
And ma'am, which book would you recommend for economics part?
See, for the economics part, those people who are not from the economics background, it poses a major hurdle because you don't know anything. And many people, they refer 3-4 books are there, but considering the paucity of time and the effort that you need to put, I would recommend that it will be like time saving also. Go for Vision IAS economics material. That is very precise. They haven't included like extra things. They have prepared it just from the UPSC examination point of view. So what they have done is they have covered the NCERT part also, 11, 12. They start with the basics, then they go to higher level. That is the first thing. Second thing is they have included the current affairs also, like how things have developed over time. If you go through books, you will have to read 5 to 6 sources, and then you will come to know, okay, this thing is happening, that is happening. But if you go through Vision IAS Notes Economic, that is like two subparts are there, 2 volumes are there. So they start from the base. They will start with the definitions, how this thing is used. Then they will go on further that, okay, in current scenario, this thing has happened. They will relate it to that earlier this scheme was launched. Then these were the flaws. Now government has launched this scheme. So in that way, like it is one-stop solution, Vision IAS economic module. That will help you a lot instead of running
Thank
after
you,
the
ma'am.
books. Welcome.
Excuse
Any
me,
other?
ma'am.
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to ask whether we should मतलब जैसे मैम ये मैगजीन्स में कंपाइल होके आता है सारा न्यूज़पेपर का मटेरियल, तो न्यूज़पेपर में मतलब हमें स्टार्टिंग से न्यूज़पेपर की ही हैबिट बनाए या फिर हम उस कंपाइल्ड मटेरियल से भी हेल्प ले सकते हैं मैम?
एक्चुअली इट विल बी रियली बेटर. देखो अभी आदत क्या होती है हमारी, नॉर्मली जब हम पढ़ना शुरू करते हैं हमें न्यूज़पेपर की आदत नहीं होती बिल्कुल भी. वी फील फ्रस्ट्रेटेड विद न्यूज़पेपर कि क्या है, क्या पढ़ना है, क्या नहीं. बट वंस यू स्टार्ट रीडिंग इट, तो आपको 10-15 दिन में क्या होता है, आपको पता लग जाता है कि ये चीज हमारे काम की है, ये नहीं है. यू विल स्टार्ट फिल्टरिंग आउट द इंफॉर्मेशन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, व्हेन यू स्टार्ट रीडिंग, यू विल रीड इट वर्ड बाय वर्ड, लाइन बाय लाइन. बट if you are reading it for 10-15 days, you will know कि ये आर्टिकल कल भी आया था, इसमें आगे ये इसका कंटिन्यूएशन में होगा. सो इफ यू रीड ब्रॉड हेडलाइन, यू विल बी इन टच विद इट. ओके, ये नया कॉन्सेप्ट है. अब जैसे काफी पार्ट्स होते हैं, जैसे सिटी की न्यूज है, वो हमारे काम की नहीं है, सो यू कैन टोटली स्किप इट. उसके बाद स्पोर्ट्स है, दैट इज नॉट ऑफ सो मच इंपॉर्टेंस, यू कैन स्किप इट. जब तक उसमें कुछ मेजर मतलब आपका कुछ टेक्नोलॉजिकल इंटरवेंशन ना हो, या बहुत ज्यादा उसका आपका बायलेटरल टाइल्स पे या उस चीज पे इम्पैक्ट ना पड़ रहा हो, तो हम उसको नॉर्मली स्किप कर सकते हैं कि ये टूर्नामेंट हुआ, कौन जीता कौन नहीं. यू कैन स्किप इट. ओके, देन व्हेन वी रीड न्यूज़पेपर, व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट? पॉलिटिकल न्यूज यू कैन स्किप. यू डोंट हैव टू बॉदर कि वहां पे मिनिस्टर ने ये बोला, उसने ये किया. वी आर नॉट बॉदर्ड अबाउट इट. वी आर बॉदर्ड अगर कुछ गवर्नमेंट स्कीम लॉन्च हुई है, वो किस किस को इम्पैक्ट करेगी. So in that way, whenever you are reading newspaper, try to filter out from our exam point of view कि which thing is important, which thing is relevant. Okay, so जो political आपका होता है फेरबदल की उसका portfolio change कर दिया, that you can skip. कि कौन सा minister है, कहाँ से उसको change किया. But हाँ, this thing will be important कि how many ministers are there. Will it be 10%? Will it be 15%? कितना हमारा number है. So just see the concepts. जो names change हो रहे हैं, you don't have to bother or worry about it. Just see the, whenever you are reading news, read it where it can be connected. Okay, so when you start reading the newspaper, initially you will feel how to read, what to skip. So for this, I will recommend those who have never read newspaper in their life, start reading one newspaper. Start with Hindu, because that is the best. Most of the times, all the current affairs questions, they are from Hindu only. Start reading with Hindu. In the morning, read Hindu. Skip the city part. Skip the sports part. These two you can skip directly. Then when you and try to filter out whatever political news is there, try to skip it. After this, in the evening, Insights on India, Daily Current Affairs, what they do is they compile news from all the newspapers, and then they release it paper wise, that okay, GS paper 1, these are the topics and this is the news. From prelims perspective, we should know this, and from mains perspective, we should know this. When you do this thing for 10 to 15 days, it will be double effort from your side, but you will get to know how to read newspaper in the longer run. That will normally people say that a newspaper consumes are 3 to 4 hours because they don't filter the information that which is to be read and which is not to be read. If you practice this for 10 to 15 days, that in morning you are reading newspaper and in the evening you are reading the insights compilation, you will automatically start removing all the useless information, and you'll be focused only the useful information. And secondly, whatever you read in morning, you are reading again it in evening. It will be stuck in your memory. Okay, you will not forget it. And at the month end, when the compilation comes, you can just flip through the pages. Okay, this was there, this was there, this was there. In this manner, your current affairs will be revised 3 times, and you can be free that, okay, this much we have to mug up, this thing has to be done, and examples will be etched in your memory.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. And it is a request that ma'am will answer every kind of question. She has a list of questions. Ma'am has answered 2-3 questions till now. If you have any doubt in those questions, please ask those doubts.
Okay, then I will move ahead with rest of the questions, and we will take all other questions in the end. So fifth question was that you cleared in the third attempt. What were the common mistakes in the first attempt? Yeah, for me, I will say I just attempted in the first attempt without any preparation. I went for my FCAT SSB. I wanted to join Air Force, and my interviewer, he was like, "You better go for civils," and he made me he convinced me to apply for the exam. First attempt I gave without any preparation. So that was one reason why I failed in first attempt. But what I have realized that what were my although I was preparing for my second attempt seriously, but then also I failed. So the mistakes that I did in first serious attempt, that is my second attempt, was first I was not reading newspaper regularly. I was not thorough with the current affairs. So don't miss newspapers. They are the backbone of your preparation. That was the one biggest mistake. Second mistake was attempt mocks, as many mocks as possible. Because when you attempt mock, you will see, okay, even if you know the concept, what kind of mistakes you are doing in application of those concepts. So that is one thing that you should be careful while attempting the mocks. And it is not just that you need to attempt the mocks. Once you have attempted the mock paper, sit with the solution and see where you are going wrong. That will help you a lot. So these are the two biggest mistakes that most of the aspirants do who fail at the prelim stage. That first thing, they don't follow the newspapers. Second thing, they don't solve mock papers. For the mains examination, it was my first mains and I cleared it in first mains. So I can't comment much on mains, but what I have seen in my fellow aspirants, and my colleagues who got selected, those who failed in mains earlier, they say that they were not writing the mains. So many of them, they were not able to finish their papers on time. That's why they were not able to clear the mains. That was one big hurdle. Second thing is the time and attention that you give to your optional paper, because optional is the one of the key which creates a huge difference between your selection and you being out of the list. See, if you see the mains GS paper marks, those who are serious aspirants, most of them, they will be getting in the range of 90 to 120, 130 marks. But if you see that range is of 30-40 marks, but if you see for the optional papers, the marks will vary from anywhere. The least marks that one person has got can be around 40 to 50 marks, and in the same paper someone is getting 170 to 180 marks. So that creates a huge difference. This year optional topper, she got 362 marks out of 500. So optional is one paper which can make or break you. So choose your optional very wisely, in which you have confidence, which you think you can take throughout, like you have interest in it and you can pull it and you can write your papers. So be very careful while you are choosing optional. That is one advice for the mains examination. Then next question was, UPSC has vast syllabus. We can study many things. Memorizing always poses a challenge. How to read factual matter to retain for longer time? See, this thing I always say, and if you have seen my videos, I have commented there also that we have lots of constraints when we are preparing for UPSC. One is the limited time. Then second thing is our limited memory to memorize anything, to recall. And then third thing, the biggest limitation is limited time in paper when we are attempting it, because we don't have that much time to recall everything and then rewrite, and we can't write everything. We have limited space to attempt the question. So whatever factual thing you are you feel that it is important, try to make short notes for it. Because if you, many people I have seen that in name of making notes, even I did this mistake initially. When I was making notes, I used to note down everything whichever is coming in front of me. I was not able to differentiate whether this is useful for me or not. So for that, try to make as much short notes as possible. Make it as concise as possible so that you can revise it in maximum 2 to 3 days before your exam. Because revision is the key. If you make lengthier notes, you will not be able to revise it, and you will be wasting your time in writing also so much. So make shorthand notes, use flow charts as much as possible, use arrows. That will really help you a lot. Don't go in writing when you're preparing notes. Don't go run after making paragraphs, filling notebooks. Try to make it as shorthand as possible. That is one thing. And for the factual matter also, like in history prelims, we need to memorize lots of things that, okay, who launched this newspaper, who launched this. We have many societies and associations also, Pratna Samaj, Arya Samaj, this and that. So for that factual, make 15 to 20 pages of notes that these are the things that have been frequently asked, and this we need to prepare. So that in that way, you at the end of your preparation before exam, you will have a concise 15 to 20 pages of factual information that is needed for every subject. Either it is history or geography, and in that manner, you can revise it very fast for your exam also. Then what do you think UPSC looks in aspirants? So for this, your answer is there in the UPSC notification. If you read the notification properly, it is clearly mentioned what it looks in the aspirants. It is clarity of thought, balance of judgment. What is your approach towards the current affairs, towards the society in general? So when this question, if anyone wants to really know, your UPSC is the only UPSC notification for the CSC exam is the only key, and what it looks into aspirant, it has clearly mentioned there what are the requirements and what is it is looking in the aspirants. So for UPSC, like earlier also I told that UPSC notification is your guiding light, whether you are preparing for prelims, mains, or you are searching for any answer, you'll get all the queries answered in the UPSC notification itself. Then UPSC isn't destination, it's a journey. How UPSC changed your life? UPSC changed my life, like you can say totally 100% turn, because earlier like I had self doubts also that whether I can do, not do. That is one part, that it gives you social recognition, and people start listening to you. They give value to your thoughts and they give you importance. But one more thing is there, that don't lose your original self when you are preparing for UPSC. Every person has their originality. And what happens is after UPSC, you'll get lots of attention. Lots of people will be after you. But just remember who was there with you when you were preparing for it. Those are the only people who will be there and who should be there once you clear. Because once you clear, your circle will be like everyone will want to be close to you, near to you. But those who are there during your struggle days and those who know and support you, they are the best people. Don't let them go. So this is one advice. So it changes your life a lot. It gives you lots of responsibility, lots of challenges. It gives you an option to explore the diversity of the nation, what is happening. Like there are many things that we were not, like we haven't even read in books also, and you will get first hand experience on those things. So yes, it will give you a launch platform that you won't get from anywhere else. It's one of the best things. And how an IAS officer can make difference in the society. So this thing, like I'm still undergoing training in Kutch. So maybe I won't be answer this question from my perspective, like exactly what changes I can do. But I will tell you what are the changes that have been done in Kutch by previous IAS officers, those who have been posted here. So I am here from last 2 months, and this is my first district during my district training, which I'm getting exposed to. And all of you might have heard about the Bhuj earthquake, which devastated Kutch. Before that, before that earthquake, Kutch was sidelined totally. But after that earthquake, the consequent DCs, all the collectors and magistrates who came here, they worked on the development of Kutch, and even the state government focused. But if you see the variation in the lives, now you name any industry and it is there in Kutch. Kandla Port, it is there in Kutch, and it handles, like, it is number 1 in the ranking of the ports. It is being the CEO, MD, all the top posts, they are being handled by the UPSC, like all India service officers. And then when you talk about Ranotsav, that is also a brainchild of Modi ji and our Honorable Prime Minister, as well as the IAS officers who were posted here. And the connectivity, like, they have totally, it's a blessing in disguise. Kutch, it was totally devastated. There was no standing building after the earthquake. And now if you see, it's just because of the efforts of the politicians as well as the IAS officers who were posted there and who worked on the field to change the destiny of Kutch. And there are many officers whom the people they cherish. For example, there were 2 back-to-back years of scarcity, and in Kutch, human population is less and the animal population is more. But at that time, Ramya ma'am, she was posted here as collector, and she ensured that not even a single cattle dies because of the scarcity. So that is in itself an achievement. Then for the medical field, all the initiatives, you name it, and you can do it as an IAS officer. So it gives you such a huge portfolio that when you are in field, you can work in any dimension you want to work. You have health department under you, you have education, you have artisans, handicrafts, handlooms, you have transport, you have renewable energy. You just name it and the sector is under you and you are linked to it, and you can work for betterment of it. So an IAS officer can make huge changes in the society. But those who are aspiring to be in the IAS, Indian Administrative Services, they should understand that it is not just the field postings, and you should not just think that, okay, I want to be SDM, I want to be in the collector post for this. You should be ready for all the postings. All the postings are challenge in themselves, and they will give you new avenues. No department is less difficult or less creamy. When you're thinking of it, you should not keep one only, that I want to go into this area or in this district. You can be posted anywhere, any state, depending on your rank. And in that also, in any district, you can't say. So this is one thing. Be ready for the roller coaster ride if you want to be a member of All India Services. But yes, you will learn a lot, you will explore a lot. Like, from temperatures of minus in Sikkim during your Bharat Darshan, and temperatures up to 50 to 51 degrees Celsius as in Rajasthan. So it is full of diversity, full of challenges. Then last question, UPSC is a national dream for youth in the country. Is there any message you want to give? This was the only message, that when you are preparing for UPSC, just think that what is your ultimate goal. But depending on your rank, you can be put into any service, any cadre. You can end up being in railway traffic service, or in railway police service, or in police service, or foreign service, or administrative service, anything. It can be there. But this gives you a platform where you have lots and lots to do. Don't be disheartened if in first attempt you are not able to get into AS, but if your ultimate target is to get into AS, you will do it ultimately. You will finally reach there. And it's not that it's very difficult and you can't do. We have so many success stories. I know one of my batchmates, he started with a constable job in police, Delhi police. Then he got selected into income tax inspector. Then again, he joined in Delhi police as sub-inspector. Right now, he's undergoing training as IPS officer in Hyderabad. So it is the persistence that matters. and how hard work you are, like how much you are ready to give to it. But your hard work, it will pay off in the longer run. You should not give up. And secondly, just clearing the UPSC is not a like final destination. It's a continuous journey. Once you clear it, then the race starts. Okay, which cadre? Then once the cadres are decided, then the race starts for the districts. Once the districts are done, then it will start. Okay, now next posting, what we have to do. So it's an unending thing. Just be ready for the challenges that are coming to your way. UPSC is just a stepping stone. It is just a door that will open the pathway for other opportunities in your life as well as the challenges. So apart from this, any other questions?
Thank you so much, ma'am. If anyone have any question, you can raise your mic. You can raise your hand, or you can unmute your mic and ask your question. Kunal Rathi has a question. Yes, Kunal, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Komal.
Yeah, Komal.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask that why do most of the aspirants refrain from choosing a science or a technical subject as their optional?
Uh, because the thing is, like, I'm from mechanical engineering background. I didn't opt for it because I was working, and it contains lots of numerical part that needs lots of practice, and you need full concentration for it. If you are not in touch with it, you have to take a break and then you have to start preparing. While the humanities subjects, they overlap with the GS papers, so they give you an extra edge. When you are studying for your optional, your GS part automatically gets ready. So that's why they opt for humanities subjects and not for the science and technical subjects. But this trend is changing also. I have like batchmates who have opted for chemistry as well, and engineers who have opted for law as well, which is considered to be a difficult subject. So it's totally on your interest. It is not related to your graduation part, because the way UPSC frames questions and the way the questions are asked during your graduation exam, they both are totally different. So the optional that you are choosing for UPSC should be the one in which you have interest. That is the only thing that matters.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Good evening, ma'am. Myself Vamil.
Good
Ma'am,
evening.
my question is, what were your keys to success, and how did you manage to keep the consistency and motivation during IELTS preparation?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Your voice is not audible.
Ma'am, my question is, what were your keys to success, and how did you manage to keep up the motivation and consistency during IELTS preparation?
I think there's some issue. I'll reconnect the call. Just give me a second.
Okay, ma'am.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, my question is, what were your keys to success, and how did you manage to keep the consistency and motivation during IELTS preparation?
Ma'am got disconnected. She will rejoin. Please wait for a second. Ma'am is trying to reconnect. She will be with us again very soon. Please wait for a second.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Sorry for the disturbance, network issues.
Yes,
Hello?
Vimal, you can go on with your question.
Ma'am, my question is, what were your keys to success and how did you manage to keep the consistency and motivation during IELTS preparation?
See, for me, one thing was like I had this chance was like my father, he told me already that if you are not able to clear it, I'll get you married off. So that was one thing that I wanted to first get my own name, get my own identity, and after that get married, because there are lots of responsibilities that will increase. So this was one of the major challenges that keep on motivating me, that no, first I want my own identity. Secondly, like when I left my job, I had seen the corporate sector from very near, so I know the flaws of the corporate sector as well as the strengths. So then I felt somewhere that corporate sector is not my cup of tea, where I want to fit in, at least at this point of time. So that also acted as a motivation, that what we are doing in corporate and what are the avenues that are available in government sector. So these 2-3 things were there that kept on motivating me. And third, if you see, most of the times what happens is when you are in college, same level, but you choose some different levels and you see your peer group performing better than you, then you feel some kind of insecurity, some kind of challenges within you, like you many times what happens is you start cursing yourself that okay, what went wrong, why I couldn't do like that, they are doing so well. So instead of getting into that negative spiral, I will say take it as a challenge, that okay, if they have done this much, we can do much more better. So that will give you a positive sense of energy. And when you are preparing for UPSC, there is one goal that why you want to do it. That is one major booster that will help you, and that will keep on you keep on going also. That help for me, it was the way I had seen the society treat women, and in my family also, the way the status of the women, the way they women are being pushed to the corner. So there are multiple things, they are not given power, they are not allowed to study, still those things exist. So I was like, okay, if I'm getting a chance, why should we should not use it, why we should not prove ourselves, why we should not be a role model and help others also to come forward. Because my parents, they are very supportive, but then also after this societal pressure and all those things, my grandparents, they are not that much supportive. So when you see in the longer run, it is all these forces that come into picture, and they will act as a motivator to you. My roots, they are from Haryana, Rohtak. I'm like, my entire studies in Gurgaon, Faridabad, I've finished my education from there, but the roots, they are still in Rohtak. So when I visited my village, I've seen women there, like they are married off, the girls, they are married off at very early age, they are not given chance. So that was one thing that kept me on motivating always, that if I'm getting this chance, why I should not make 100% out of it. So find one reason which keeps you going. That will be your ultimate power booster. Because if you see, all these things will come like they will appear to be very small. That we have to get married. And the funniest thing is, as soon as results came out, my marriage was fixed within 10 or 15 days. But then also, the satisfaction is that I became someone. I have my own identity. So these are like push factors that will help you. But after all this, there's one thing that will keep you going, and that is that reason you have to find yourself. For me, it was because of my roots, the things that I had seen in my childhood and whenever I visited my village. So find that one reason why you want to work on it.
Ma'am, my question is that you clear UPSC without any coaching.
Yes.
So how did you manage it? Like, how did you understood that what should be your approach, whether you are going in the right way or not?
That is like when I started my preparation, there was no one to guide me. So the only guide that I took for me was UPSC notification. And while preparing, also many times I'll feel like demotivated, off track. But then to check whether I'm going in right direction or not, I will attempt mock papers. I will solve mock papers and I will see how I am performing. So that is the only test. Even if you join coaching institute, whether you are going in the right direction or not, that you can decide only through solving mock papers. So this thing is common for all, whether you have joined coaching or not. The only difference that it makes is when you join coaching, they will pre-feed you that you have to read this, read this, read this. But when you are studying on yourself and preparing on your own, you will have lots of things and you will have the free choice to choose your own stuff, what you want to read and what you want to reject. So this is the only difference, but mocks will play a very important role in your preparation. Whether you go for coaching or not, try to solve as many mocks as possible. That will help you in deciding whether you are on the right track or not.
Thank you, ma'am. Titiksha has a question. Titiksha,
Good evening, ma'am. My name is Titiksha. Ma'am, I want to ask that is it important or do we need to delete a social and digital life if we are preparing for UPSC? Is it important?
Sorry, can you please repeat your question?
Good evening, ma'am. My question is, do we really need to delete a digital and social networking life if we're preparing for UPSC? Is it really important for us? Or we can balance it?
Titiksha, this thing actually, it depends on your person to person. It will vary a lot. I deleted all my social media accounts because I'm very social person and all these things, they affect me a lot. So I was not on any of the social media platforms. I deleted WhatsApp also. And I used phone also, like barely I will use it. If anything is needed, I will use a laptop and phone for surfing only. No calls, no text. I was not in touch with anyone. I totally broke it off because I know that these things, they will hamper me. If I'm speaking to someone, that will distract me a lot. But there are lots of people who can manage with the social media also, and while they are working also. For example, my husband, he was working full time. He was in state services and he was on all the social media platforms. He prepared for the exam while being in service, being SDM, and being on all the social media platforms, hanging out with friends, attending parties, weddings, everything. But he was able to clear. So it depends on person to person how much these things affect you. That is the first thing. Second thing, how much it is creating distraction for you from your preparation. You need to assess yourself whether you are able to control that distraction and still go on with your preparation, or you need to cut off from it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Ma'am, can you please share your interview experience?
My interview, I was interviewed by Sujata Mehta ma'am board. So she, like, initially she showed me my pic and she asked, is it you? And then the interview started. So the first question she asked me, okay, you are a mechanical engineer and you opted for history optional. So how you can link mechanical engineering with history? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, continue.
So all those, like all the interviewers in the panel, they connected me with the history, all the questions. Starting from mechanical engineering with history, then the second in the panel, the second person, she asked me about the divorce rate, whether it is historically increasing or decreasing, what is my take on the divorce rates and whether it is acceptable or not, how it is related to women empowerment. Then the third person, he asked me the correlation of army and history, how the defense forces have acted. All this was like overall correlated with the history, except one of the panel members. He asked me about one of the beaches that first he asked me, okay, do you know the difference between Kolam and Kovalam? Then he asked me name the beaches of Goa. after that he named some beach on in Mumbai, and he asked me, okay, are you aware where is it? So I was like, no sir, no sir. So initially he asked me about beaches of Goa, and I told him, sorry sir, I'm not aware. Then he asked me about beaches of Mumbai. I told him, sorry sir, I'm not aware. So he mocked me that it appears that you are a bookworm, you have never traveled, and you are sitting in one place. So how will you survive? So literally it was kind of depressing at that point of time. Then he was like, okay, at least tell me name of the states west to east, and tell me where is the Eastern Naval Command, and what is the difference between INS and INHS. So overall interview was mixed, and it was more inclined towards history part. That was my optional. But like my experience, what I realized was they will such situation that they will try to check whether how you act during the stress. And if you stay very calm and composed, and if you don't know, just accept it with a smile. Sorry sir, I'm not aware, I'll read about it. That is the best answer. So that was all about the interview that I am able to recall. And I have my transcript. If you want, I'll share it with you guys. I'll search for it and I'll share. Apart
Okay,
from
thank you so
this,
much, ma'am.
welcome. Any other queries? Any other question?
Hello, ma'am. Am I
Hello?
audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good
My,
evening.
my question is that when should we start answer writing practice for mains? After cover some syllabus or from beginning?
I will recommend better to start when you have covered some portion of syllabus. And for current affairs, you can write. But for the static part, when you have covered some syllabus, then you start writing. Otherwise, what will happen is you will write one answer, and another people, those who have read the syllabus, they will write one answer. When you compare both, you will feel very demotivated. So just before you start answer writing, I'll recommend take any of the online these coaching institutes which post daily questions and people post their daily answers. For example, Insights on India does that regularly. IAS Baba does that. Forum IAS also does that now. So read those answers of 3-4 people for few days, like 15-20 days, read those. After that, you start writing for the questions that are related to the current affairs. And the static part, once you are done with the syllabus, then you can practice answer writing.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions?
Do we have any other question or should we wrap up?
Ma'am, while
Yes, go
I
on.
have a question.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
Nikita.
ma'am, while reading the newspaper, should we leave the regional parts like west, north, south,
You can,
east, and focus on the like the country as a whole while
yeah.
reading the news?
See, the regional part only focus on these things. For example, if any state has declared any national bird or animal, or if there is any specific scheme that has been launched by state, just read that part. Rest you can skip, because what happens is UPSC is all India's exam. So the things of all India level will be asked. But there are some schemes state specific that are later on, like for example, very unique or that have been replicated from another nations, that you should be aware of. These are the only two things that you should be aware. Rest you can skip entire thing.
On to the same question, ma'am. If any major protest or movement is going on in specific state,
Yes.
so should we read it?
If you belong to that state, just have a rough idea that will help you during your interview preparation. But for the prelims and mains, if there is major any such issue, it won't be asked directly. But yes, for example, if you remember, there was a protest against one of the plants that it was degrading the environment. So that can be helpful in quoting in the case studies, and that can be quoted as examples. But that too, you don't have to go into very much detail that who is the leader, which are the parties involved. That is not required. Just have an overview that what is happening, and that is more than enough for you guys.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, my question to you is that how do you prepare for the interview? Am I audible? Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, you're not audible.
Hello.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Now you're audible. Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, sorry,
It's okay, ma'am. No problem. It's okay. Ma'am, my question to you is how did you prepare for the interview? Like after passing the 2 rounds of the UPSC, did you take any coaching for the interviews or you prepared it on your own? How did you
See, I was like, after my mains results came out, I was very skeptical because I hadn't gone out of home from last more than 1 year, because our results came out on 20th December and I came back to my home on around like 5th November and I started preparing 1 year back. So it was more than 1 year that I had gone out and met people or had any kind of social interactions. So I was very much afraid for my interview. And since I'm from the mechanical background, and I was not very confident because I was not in touch with mechanical part for 3 years now, because my graduation got completed in 2015 and then I was working in designing. So I was specialized in only one field. That's why I opted for like interview guidance. I joined Next IES for my mechanical part and then I gave 2-3 mocks also. So what happens is when you attend the mocks now, they will keep on bombarding you with lots of things that you read this, read that, read this, and do this, do that. When be very selective when you are taking the feedback, because they want everyone to be in the same sailing in the same boat. That is not the thing that is going to help you. You need to be very choosy and pick and select only those things that are very near to you and like that you can correlate with, like, okay, this is my mistake and this I should rectify. Apart from that, there is no need to focus. I still remember one of the coaching assistants during my mock, they handed me one form that if you don't clear, you can join for the prelims next year. And one of the guys was there. He was like, you don't think about the interview, you are not getting selected. Better you start preparing for the next year exam. So there will be very varied kind of feedbacks. Don't get bogged down by them. There will be people who will be constantly thinking of pulling you down. And when you are appearing for the mocks, I will recommend there's one mock organized by Jamia Islamia that is very much near to the actual UPSC interview. So if any one of you gets any chance, like when you clear your prelims and mains, do go for that Jamia Islamia mock. That will give you a real feel of the UPSC interview. Rest other mocks, they keep on unnecessarily screwing you. They will ask you all the factual things. But yes, that one mock that was really helpful for me was the this Jamia Islamia mock. And
thank you, ma'am.
Hello.
Do we have any other question? I think that's all, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining in and guiding us, ma'am. It was really, really helpful. You really gave us a real scenario of UPSC, and we hope we can have you again with us to guide us. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome and all the best to all the aspirants. Just keep working hard. Best wishes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
ma'am.
everyone, for joining us, and thank you so much for being with us. If you want to know about our more webinars and updates, join us on our social media pages. Thank you. You can leave the call now.